the Go series. And this is one that Jesus was telling his disciples, his followers, hey, I got some action that I want you to do. Just go. I'm going to challenge you to do some things. And we act. And today is one, it's the go of relationship. The go of relationship. We go, we act in response, within our relationship with God. And because of this relationship with Jesus, it changes us. So let me go right to what Jesus says to us. It's Matthew chapter 5. Starting at verse 38, let me read what Jesus tells us about the go of relationship. You have heard that it was said, eye for an eye and tooth for a tooth. But I tell you, do not resist an evil person. If someone strikes you on the right cheek, turn to him the other also. And if someone wants to sue you and take your tunic, let him have your cloak as well. If someone forces you to go 1 mile, go with him 2 miles. Give to the one who asks you, and do not turn away from the one who wants to borrow from you. Hopefully you read the first part. If anyone asks you to go 1 mile, go with him 2 miles. The go of relationship. I remember my sophomore year of college. I went to a Bible study. And Bible studies are like eating meals, You go to them, you need them, but you don't always remember each one. This one I remember. It was led by this guy named Mac. It was just like a cool name, isn't it? Mac, my name is Mac. Although he was very small and thin anyways, but it didn't kind of fit him. But Mac was the leader. And he's going through the stories, talking to people, and the room has got about 15 guys in it. And then he brings up this situation. He starts playing a scenario about this person who disrespects you. He treats you like a jerk. And then I'm thinking that he made this whole Bible study up just for me, because he zeroes in on me and he goes, well, Matt, what would you do in this situation? This person has disrespected you, treated you like dirt. What would you do? Well, I'm kind of your arrogant sophomore college guy, so I, of course, act out of that, and I go, this guy's a jerk to me? Mac, if this guy's a jerk to me, I have the right to be a jerk back. If he's disrespecting me, he does not deserve my respect. I can treat him as I would like to. Let him be as he wants. And to this day, I remember what he said. He goes, Matt, that's not what Jesus said. I was like, oh, man, I thought I nailed that question. I nailed it. This is how I'm supposed to do it. And no, that's not what Jesus said. He says Jesus asked his followers to do something so much harder than that. He brought up passages out of Philippians, and he says, Jesus' example for us, he was to treat others who were not worthy of our respect with respect. Treat them better than they deserve. And then he talked about how Jesus, his example was to die for those people that would disrespect him, that treated him like dirt. He would die for them. I was like, wow, I missed that one. I wanted to follow Jesus. It was my sophomore year of college. I came to know him the year before, and I wanted to follow Jesus, but he hadn't transformed how I live out of that relationship yet. He had changed my life, as in, I know what it means to be in relationship with Almighty God through Jesus. It's a friendship with Him. But my everyday life had not changed yet. I still had to work out of going from that relationship with Jesus. How do I go out? Now, Jesus had said, hey, I am the leader now. You are going to be the follower. But the way I had it, I wanted to be the leader still. I wanted to set the agenda. I didn't want to think like Jesus does. I didn't want to understand what he said. I didn't want to act as he would. I wanted to lead. And Jesus said, wait a minute. I'm going to be the leader, right? I want you to follow how I would like to do things. And I had trouble with that. And I had trouble because Jesus asks us to do things that are just beyond our natures. But this is what Jesus does. Jesus makes us superhuman. And that's tough for us to grab a hold of, and instantly we're thinking capes and superpowers, and then I don't want you to go in that direction, but some of that fits. Jesus, he goes past our natural tendencies and makes us superhuman. Now, I'll give you an examples here. In the Bible, and we just read this story. If someone asks you to go 1 mile, go with them 2. The scenario that was there is that a Roman soldier could enlist or force or compel somebody to do a task. The Romans, they had conquered so much of the known world at that time. And they would say, we're in charge. You are doing things for us. So if a soldier says, I need this pack of stuff carried across the city, they could just look at somebody and say, buddy, you're helping me right now. And the person would have to do this. They were compelled to pick up the bag and walk across the city. Or they said, hey, I need to grab this bag of grain back to our storehouses. Buddy, I want you to help me out here. We're going. And they would be forced to go. And Simon of Cyrene was forced. He was compelled to carry Jesus' cross up to Mount the Golgotha, where Jesus was crucified. Jesus couldn't carry it anymore, so they said, Simon, get over here. You're carrying this cross. That's what had to happen. That's the scenario Jesus brings into this situation. That you were forced to do things. You were compelled to do certain things. And then we see a hardship. And we see that it's being disrespectful to our human nature. Nobody should be forced to do something like this against their will. Nobody should be able to have to do these things. And Jesus goes countercultural. Because our culture says, no, you have every right to be a jerk back to that person who's being a jerk to you. To force against this person is being disrespectful. Jesus goes against our cultural mandate of what we're supposed to do. He says, I want you to go. Because otherwise they might not see how much I really love them. I want you to go do something that's totally unnatural for you, so that they might be able to see the love of God for them. You know, followers of Jesus have been changed inside, and they've been given supernatural power to do these things that are past their nature. You know, the things that we are asked to do, we go, wait, Jesus, you've got this wrong. It's supposed to be the other way. We're supposed to stick up for ourselves. We're supposed to, someone's being disrespectful, we're supposed to push against them. And he says, wait a minute, I want them to see my love for them. I want you to do things that are just totally opposite of human nature. And sometimes we downplay it. We downplay it. We say, well, you know, I'm just a poor sinner saved by grace. I don't know if I can do all these things. I don't know if I have the power to do things that are against my nature. I'm just a fallen person. Jesus doesn't say that about us. He goes into John chapter 1 and he says, wait a minute, you are a child of God. I have made you through what I have done. I died for you. I changed your life and made you one of God's children. I came inside and changed your very heart. I brought in my power and my love and my grace, and I have given you the power to do these things. I change you. I have given you the power to be supernatural. It goes against your base nature so that you might be everything a child of God is. That you might act as a child of God and you might go from that relationship. You know, this go of relation is no longer about your rights or how you fit into this community of people. It's all about Jesus now and what He's done in your life. Jesus is all that matters. You know, I kind of cringe each time I hear Christians say words like, you know what, I don't even care what they say. I don't even care what they think. They can go jump off a bridge or all. We all have our phrase that we would use in that situation of saying, I don't care what they say, I don't care what they think. We have our own phrases. And I chalk it up every time to the idea that they're not thinking of Jesus when their mouth is working. They're not thinking of Jesus when they're thinking of this other person. They're just thinking about themselves. Their focus is all inside, and they're not focused on Jesus. They're not focused on His love and how He asks us to do things, and He's even given us the power to do them. You know, it becomes apparent the longer we are alive that Jesus cares about people a lot more than we do. And it shouldn't take us that long to understand this, that He cares about people a lot more than we do. But He asks us to care for them as much as He does. He asks us, you know, am I going to be the leader still, or are you going to be the leader? I called you to be a follower of me, to think and to do things as I would do it, to pray for your enemies. All of these things, I asking you to be the leader? No, I'm the leader. I want you to follow how I would do this. And I want you to care for those people because I care about them. Will you care about them? See, Jesus went to the cross for them. What are we going to do for them? You know, this is your big picture here on this, and keeping focused on Jesus is our focus on Jesus. It shapes our vision for all the other people. You know, when we have our vision focused on Jesus, our vision for other people is as He would have it. And I know that some of us are thinking, man, come on, Matt, that sounds so hard. It's so hard to do. How can I keep focused on Jesus and loving the people that He would love? They're so unlovable. You know, how do I love them? How do I forgive people that they're still that way? How do I do that? How do I pray for somebody who is an enemy? How did those Jewish people pray for the Roman soldiers that were occupying their land, that were always in their face, compelling them to do things they didn't want to do? How did they do that? It was their focus on Jesus that helped them with their vision for other people. You know, a soldier could compel somebody to go 1 mile. It's God's grace that compels us to love people when they don't deserve our love. God's grace compels us to do this. We are supernatural followers of Jesus. We had Christmas time here that we focus on the peace of Jesus. Do we focus on the person of Jesus throughout the year? Yeah, we want the peace. We want peace and quiet, please. But do we focus on the person of Jesus, what He would do? what He calls us to do, what He compels us to do because we are in a relationship with Him. How do we do that? And we get down to the point of, great, awesome, I need to stay focused on Jesus. How do I do that? I read an article by Tim Keller, and it was a wonderful article for me because it was called Questions for Sleepy Christians. Because sometimes we just get a little, wait a minute, I think I am in a relationship with Jesus, and it affects how I talk with other people and react with them. Sometimes we're just a little sleepy. And there was a bunch of questions that go along with this. And I'll read a couple of them. And maybe you want to internalize a couple of these during this week to test this relationship with Jesus. Here's a couple of them. Do I really sense Jesus' presence in my life? Do I sense His presence? Not just, I went to church. I know I'm in a relationship with Him. Do I sense His presence outside of the doors of the church? Do I sense those? No, here's another one. Are you finding certain biblical promises extremely precious and encouraging? These are the things that sometimes you have times in life that you just need God's reassurance. Like a Proverbs 3, 5, and 6, trust in the Lord with all your heart. And lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways acknowledge Him. He will direct your paths. When you are, I don't know how many times that has been so precious to me to know that I can trust in my God. And I know that He will make my path straight. I will understand what I'm supposed to be doing. Yeah, I spent some time on the first two. Let me give you a couple of the others. Have you been finding the Bible to be active and alive? This assumes that you're reading God's Word too. How clear and vivid is your assurance and certainty of God's forgiveness and His fatherly love? How deep have you experienced God's forgiveness? Are you finding God challenging you and calling you to something through the Word? These are just tests of your relationship. They're like, we just went through some staff evaluations, and we'll invite you to do the pastor evaluation, hopefully. You get to get those click marks and say, oh, yes, oh, no, however you want to do that. But an evaluation, a test, is supposed to be helpful. These 5 questions, they're supposed to be helpful for you to understand, all right, where is my relationship with Jesus, and how am I walking that out? When Jesus says, go, I want you to do this because of our relationship, I have to understand, what's that a relationship like? And that's what I bring these up for. It's not like, oh man, I am totally out the window on this relationship thing. No, it's about, it should be helpful in evaluating it. I don't think we ask those tough questions all the time. When's the last time you actually said, all right, I'm in a relationship with Jesus? How's that going? Does it make a difference in my everyday life? Does it make a difference inside of me personally? Do I treat other people differently because I'm in that relationship? Do I do things that are against my very nature because I'm in that relationship, because Jesus has asked me to do it? Hopefully it spurs you on to do some things that you would just never, ever do, because Jesus says, go. I want you to go and do this. It was the early disciples. They were just doing crazy things that they were never trained to do these things. They didn't go to seminary. It was Peter and John. This is Acts chapter 4. You can look it up when you go home. Peter and John were preaching, they were teaching in the temple. And they're talking about Jesus as He is the Messiah who is risen from the dead. And the religious leaders say, oh, wait a minute. We can't be talking about Messiah stuff. We tell you who the Messiah is. So they bring him in and they tell him the same story. Jesus came as the Messiah. He's been promised for centuries. Isaiah, 700 years ago, promised that the Messiah was coming. And Jesus is the Messiah. Of course, you killed him. That's not a very nice thing to say to some people that are in charge of you, but they just right in their face. This is what it is. And he rose again, and we have seen him, and we are going to tell other people about it because we have been changed in our relationship. That's what Jesus has done. And they put him to the side, and they put him off in another room, and they started talking to one another, and this is what they said. The members of the council were amazed when they saw the boldness of Peter and John, for they could see that they were just ordinary men with no special training in the Scriptures. These weren't like the rabbis who knew the whole Old Testament and the prophets. They were just fishermen. They didn't go to school past third grade, probably. Their schooling was, okay, I got to know the Ten Commandments and the Torah, but that's it. They were untrained people, yet they were so bold, and they were explaining how Jesus was the Messiah. And this is the part I want you to grab a hold of. They also recognized them as men who had been with Jesus. These men had been in a relationship with Jesus. And he had changed them so deeply that they were doing things that were so unnatural for them. They were going where they would never go before. They were bold when they were never be bold like this. They were facing dangers there and in the future that would ultimately lead to their deaths because Jesus had radically changed them. This relationship with Jesus has compelled them to go. This is the relationship that we do the things that we have been called to do, that we've been called to be superhuman against our very nature. This is the go of relationship, and it's all because of Jesus. My hope is for this, that from in this relationship, we are able to say, Jesus, I am here to go wherever you send me, to do whatever you ask me to do. That's the go of relationship. Let me pray with you.